TSO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. Alright guys, so it's been requested that I do another Nightblade tank build. And it's been a minute since I've used my Nightblade in PvE content, so I just thought, yeah, it's about time that I reapproach the Nightblade tank. That was one of my main tanks when I first started tanking in this game. I love the Nightblade tank. So in today's video and build, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of familiar sets that we're accustomed to with tanks, but I'm going to give you the spin-off of how I apply this in the Nightblade tank build. And this build I call the Komodo Dragon. And I'm going to go ahead and get into it. So we're going to go ahead and get into the character sheet first. Now keep in mind I'm sword and board on both sides, so we're not going to see any stat changes on the switch. So this applies on both sides. Actually, it won't because of the passives, but I'll get into it. On this side, you're going to see max magic at 19,303. Recovery 844, max health 43,439, health recovery 441, max stamina is 18,274. A lot of people want to go ahead and put more stamina than magicka. If you want to, that's fine. I don't. The reason being because I use heavy attacks, and by using heavy attacks I gain more stamina. Plus I go ahead and use the leeching, so I gain magic and stamina at the same time during my weave. But that's me. Also, you're going to see stam recovery at 985. That offsets the lower value of less stamina, because I'm going to be using blood spawn, so that just offsets that slight difference. And you're going to see to the left my health is allocated at 40, stamina at 24, nothing in the magicka, but I will be running the mage mundus because I want that extra magicka, and I'm going to be using tri-statted food. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and switch, and I'll show you the slight difference in the stats. Max health's dropped. Magicka stayed the same, stamina stayed the same, recoveries look about the same. Resistance is 19 and 20, but I'll go ahead and get into the sets, get into the gear, and show you everything that's going on. So we're going to be using the Tavas, and it's a pretty standard set, especially for Nightblade tanks. What I do is I always on my tanks glyph with crushers. Why? Because I don't want my DPS with the crushers. I want them with the increase, because this does not stack. Once it's applied, it's just going to go ahead and reduce the target's physical and spell resistance by 1,622 for 5 seconds. That's on both weapons. I put one mace, one sword, just so I know what I have on the bar swap, and I keep my shields different. But I go with Decisive. Now, if you want to go Infuse, you can. That would reduce the global cooldown effect for the enchantment. But I like Decisive, especially with this build. Why? Because when I gain Ultimate, I have an 18% chance to gain an additional Ultimate. And for the Nightblade tank, this is beneficial. Why? Because I have a lot of resources to gain Ultimate in this build. So I want to capitalize with Decisive. Now, I'm going to also be using the Infused Tava's shields. Both of them are infused. Why? Max health. Simple mitigation, I'm going to be using Bone Shield. That scales off max health, so I want to increase that. Okay, once again, Sword, Crushers, Decisive. Shield, Tavas, Infused. Excuse me. I'm going to go with the Blood Spawn. Reason being, it's going to give me stam recovery, and when I take damage, I have a 6% chance to generate 14 ultimate and increase my physical and spell resistance by 6,225. Unlike the Dragonknight, the Nightblade has very low resistance, but when you add the Shadow Barrier and that passive, you'll gain your passive, increasing your resistance. But Blood Spawn definitely comes in handy because it pushes our resistance up even further, so we want to take advantage of that. So this one is heavy, infused, max health. The chest of Tavas, infused once again. Shoulders, divine, stamina. Sash of Tavas, divine, glyph, magicka. And of course, we're going to be using the leeching set. Now, if you don't want to use the leeching set and you want to use ebony or ebon or sanctuary or whatever other set, you can. I like the leeching. Why do I like the leeching? Simple. It's going to give me max health. Healing received, and this is the big one. When I take damage, I have an 8% chance to summon a cloud of leeching poison under the attacker that deals 1,452 poison damage in a 4-meter radius every second for 5 seconds, and it heals me 100% of the damage caused. This can also apply to adds. So the more adds I hit with this, the more I'm getting healed for. That's why I like it. But if you don't want to roll the set, you can. You don't have to, but this is pretty much a vet set. It's not trial based. I would replace the probably leeching with plague doctors if I was going to roll this in a trial. That's, you know, my advice. Okay, Greaves of Tavas, infused, max health. Sabatons of Leeching, and of course the Jewelry. Now here's the big deal. I don't want recovery on this. I want the Alchemy Accelerant Enchantment. It reduces my cooldown of my pots by 5 seconds for each. That's a 15-second tick off of it, because remember, I'm an Argonian and I'm a Nightblade. I will go ahead and get into this and show you guys a couple of things in the skills and in the passives. Okay. Now, let's go over the skills and now I'll get into the passives. I'm going to use the Inner Rage. It's just my range taunt. I don't spam this, but the nice thing about this is it uses Magicka, and it also has a higher chance to grant a synergy by 38%. So I really like this ability. It has a nice AoE effect when people can synergize with it. Of course, I use the Bone Shield. Once again, this goes ahead and scales off max health, and it's absorbing 35% of my max health. Also, my allies can activate it, absorbing 70% of their max health, and also grants them minor vitality, which increases their healing received by 8%. Also, I'm going to be using Mirage. This is the big one for the Nightblade tank. Why? Because we're using the Tavas. What this does is when I activate it, I gain the Major Invasion, Minor Resolve, and Minor Ward. This increases my dodge chance by 15%. I have to dodge to get the benefit from Tavas. So I have to go ahead and use this ability to be able to increase my dodge chance, because without Major Evasion, I'm not going to be dodging. I'm going to be more likely blocking, and Tavas becomes completely useless. So I want to go ahead and use the Mirage, and keep in mind, it's also going to increase my physical and spell resistance again. Siphoning attacks. This is a big one because it helps recoup my Magicka, helps heal me, but the biggest deal about this is the passive, right? When I go ahead and I cast a siphoning ability, I generate 2 ultimate. That's huge because it's going to go ahead, give me that passive, then it can also trigger the decisive. That's what's generating ultimate for me. I want to take advantage of that. All right. Also, I'm going to be using the Guard. The Guard, keep in mind, it's going to go ahead. I'm going to WoW bonded. 30% of the damage is redistributed to me. That helps proc leeching. Simple. Also, I'm going to be using the Aggressive Warhorn, 250 ultimate. But with this, I generate a lot of ultimate. I want to take advantage of it. I'm going to be using Pierce Armor. All my tanks use this as a primary taunt. Why? Because I'm going to go ahead and get the Major Fracture and the Major Breach. Right now I have low slash. In the past I used my ad to give the minor maim, but I want to go ahead and use this for the minor maim, and I want to get this morph. The reason being, I'm going to get the minor heroism. That's also going to be a generating ultimate ability for me, so I want to go ahead and do that. Also, Refreshing Path. This helps mitigate damage by healing. So I want to go ahead and use this because it's going to go ahead, increase my movement speed, giving me the Major Expedition. It's going to give me a heal effect. And keep in mind, in the Shadow ability, I'm going to get Shadow Barrier. So casting a Shadow ability grants me the Major Resolve and the Major Ward for 6 seconds, increasing my physical and spell resistance by 5,280. So, and also I get a 25% bonus for each piece of heavy armor equipped. And that's 125%. Also, I'm going to be using the Absorb Magic. The reason I like the Absorb Magic, it reduces my block cost by 8% because this is my primary bar on my block. I can block on the other one, but primarily I want to block on this bar. Also, Swallow Soul. I can use this to activate the passive, but primarily what Swallow Soul does for me, it just gives me minor vitality, increasing my healing received by 8%. And also I go ahead and use Bolstering Darkness in those clutch situations that I can't get a Warhorn off, and I need, and say a healer's down. If a healer drops and somebody's going to try to recover, Bolstering Darkness comes in handy. Why? Because it goes ahead, reduces the enemy's movement speed. Now, they might be immune to it, but for me, it gives the major protection for me and my allies. It reduces damage taken by 30%, and then it reduces my damage taken by 30%. That really comes in handy, and keep in mind it also offers a synergy to my allies, which goes ahead and heals them for 14,814 over 4 seconds. That's an ability I can use if a healer drops. So just why I have it there. So pretty much this is how it is, but I want to go ahead and also go down into the Argonian passives, because what I want to do here is show you resourcefulness. When I drink a potion, I restore 4,620 health, magicka, and stamina, right? That's big. But anytime I also go ahead and drink a potion, I'm going to get catalyst, right? And what catalyst does for me is after drinking a potion, I gain 20 ultimate. So once again, once I gain the ultimate, decisive kicks in, I have a chance to gain additional ultimate. So that's why I want to go ahead and get those reduction timers on my pot versus the recovery. It's going to give me resources up front, reduce the cost, and bump up my ultimate spikes. That's why I go ahead and do it that way. All right, now also, that's pretty much in a nutshell. So let's go into the champion points real quick. We'll start off with the apprentice. I put 27 points into Bless, 7.7. It helps with the refreshing path. That's the only reason I go ahead and put it on here. It goes ahead and increases my healing, plus it will apply to the leeching set as well. Also, I have the elemental expert. Once again, I want to go ahead and increase some of that refreshing path damage just a little bit, but keep in mind I'm not a DPS, I'm a tank. So I need a little bit of penetration because to offset, I'm going to be dealing shit DPS. So I put that in for 1,554. I go ahead, put 30 points into this at Master of Arms. The only reason I want 30 points, now I know it's not allocated right. I will put more points into it when the new DLC comes out to offset that, but I want Reposit. When I block an attack, I have a 15% chance to deal 2,900 physical damage to the enemy. This can occur every 5 seconds. I'll be blocking a lot, so might as well take advantage of that passive. Thermaturge. I'm going to be dealing a lot of dot damage when I deal it. So I'm going to go ahead and put 904, but I want 120 into this tree. The reason being I want the last stand. When I fall below 20% health, I gain major heroism, granting me 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. Every time this ticks, once again, decisive can kick in. So I want to go ahead and utilize that to my benefit. I also put 64 into Mighty for 1301, increasing my physical damage, and also any of my poison disease damage for my sets. And also I put piercing up because I want that penetration on my weaves and any other effects. Going over to the warrior, I have Ironclad at 8.23. It reduces the direct damage to take in. I also have 6 points in the spell shield, just pumping up some of that spell resistance. I have Hardy and Elemental Defender split at 909. I only got 2 points into Thick Skin, but the reason being I want 120 into the Warrior. Once again, I want the determination. After I drink a potion, I gain a damage shield that absorbs 1,518 damage for 15 seconds. Now, that will get depleted really quick, but once again, I'm going to be drinking a lot of potions throughout my rotations because that's what this build is built upon. So I'm going to go ahead and capitalize just on that little bit of mitigation. But once again, Bastion, I'm going to be shield stacking using the Bone Shield and using Mirage. The Bone Shield, this helps bump up the Bone Shield's effect. So I want Bastion at 51. I want to increase my healing received because I'm a tank, and then I put more points into the heavy armor focus because the diminishing return isn't worth allocated anymore into the quick recovery. Warlords at 904 to reduce the cost to break free. I have Tenacity at 909. I have Arcanus at 1301. I have Mooncap at 10.15. Healthy is at 8.12. Tumbling, once again, I'm below. I will put the point, offset the point difference, but right now it's at 1.97. And Shadow Ward's at 904. I probably will be bumping this up to a little over 10 and then put a little bit more points into Tumbling when we get those 30 points. So there it is, and that's the champion points and how they're spent. I haven't done much PvE in this character for a while, but we'll go check out the dailies and I'll make a run and show you guys what we do. But I really like this build. Somebody had asked me, someone's like, can you do a Nightblade tank build? And I'm like, yeah, sure, it's not a problem. Now, Tavas is, like I said, nothing new. It's, I like the leeching set, but there's other sets like Plague Doctors, Eben, you can all throw on there with the Tavas. Bloodspawn, it's still a really good set. I like it. I probably won't do the DLC, but I'll check it out.
How's this? You look spindle. There's always.
Okay, that's one, I believe. Right.
You wish.
And that's one. Pretty easy dungeons today. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'll be using the Essence of Magicka because I go through a lot of Magicka. And once again, I do heavy attacks between my weave rotation. That go ahead and with that passive into... and also, let me show you guys this real quick. When I throw this up and throw this up, now my resistance is at 25 and 27. Add the blood spawn, now I'm around 30. I want to keep that shield up as much as possible. That's one of the major key elements. So I put both of the mitigating effects, you know, on the opposite end of the bar. Don't need to be in there. Sometimes there's a heavy sack over here. I want to check it out just to make sure. Nope, not today. Now, if you want to go with the stamina recovery for the strike, you can. That's going to be up to you. We're just kind of moving fast, so... But as you can see, like, 3 or 4 hits and I'm at full stamina, so... You do your rotation right, you'll be fine. Okay, get these heavy sacks. Now, like I said, Tavas isn't anything new. And I've ran Tavas before. And on certain builds, it's better. Now, like Dragon. You can pair Tavas up with Dragon, and it's been done before, and it works out great. The only thing about it is, for me, you know, it depends on the content, pretty much, is how I'm playing it. Burning Spellweave Shoes. Don't need it, but whatever. Fine. Okay. Gonna morph that real quick. Can gain the minor or whatever. I'm gonna go with the mystic. Once again, the minor force doesn't mean nothing to me since I'm a tank. No. Just hold still. Nada. Where in the hell is I was about to say? I don't think the healer knows where he's going.
I will harvest your soul again.
Bullshit, I had to block up. I see your comment, Swig. Okay. All right. Oh. All right.
Your hide will make a wonderful rug for the master. Surrender and I'll devour you quickly.
Okay, there we go.
Right, minion.
No.
Stop them before it's too late. Rise, minion.
And there it is. That's it. Pretty much in a nutshell. I think I can morph that one. Let's see if I can morph it now. Not quite. Let me go ahead. I'll check out some comments here. It's a pretty easy dungeon, to be honest with you guys, so... Like I said, you know, you can do... It's a lot of flexibility. Like I said, you can use Tava's Dragons. It's been done before. Sanctuary's good. Evan's good. Lot of different flexibility when it comes to Nightblade tanks. A lot of people prefer DK, but, you know, I was just having this discussion about, like, Templar tanks. You know, Templar tanks are really good, and a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I would prefer this tank or that tank, and it's like, why? You know, I mean, I get it that, you know, DK has a lot of passives that benefit it.
You know, I was just having this discussion about...
Let me go ahead and mute that. That's annoying. Okay, let's see. Morning Mystic. I've got a Nightblade tank build coming out a month or so. That's Swig. Lewis, best typo ever. True, I'm going to show him that. Morning. I can kind of change everything. A bit late to the show, but looking forward to the new build. Love it. No such thing as BIS. Yo, Mystic. Hey, X, what's up, man? Thanks for the drop in. Yeah, it's a great build. I really love the Nightblade tank. Nightblade has been like a main of mine since the beginning, and I actually came out with my hybrid build for the tank, which, alright, hey Shorty, what's up? What is something a Nightblade tank does better than any other tanks? Well, the Nightblade tank, Lewis, each of them are different. So what the Nightblade actually does is it generates ultimate really faster. You can get a faster Warhorn rotation depending on your build. What also the Nightblade tank does when you're putting a refreshing path down, it's offering a slight mitigation to offset for your primary healers, for any stamina builds that are up in front of the combat. So when a Nightblade tank throws down the refreshing path, you don't want twisted path, you want refreshing. It's going to throw a small heal. That helps reserve healers' resources. And I'm always telling people, you would be surprised, little effects like that, you know, reserves players' resources, especially like healers. Thanks, Shorty. I appreciate it. Is it good in PvP? You can use this in PvP. I would recommend... It depends on which way you want to go for PvP. If you're wanting to go with, you know, a hardcore tank build, you wouldn't want to use Tavas, but let's say you want to go with, you know, a little bit... I use leeching in PvP, especially in Battlegrounds. It's a pain in the ass. And this build would work. You'd have to offset some of the resistance. You would have to do impen, and you would have to put in your champion points for more critical resistance. But yes, you want to go ahead. To me, this is the big deal, guys, right here. A lot of people are used to putting your regens on your jewelry. If you are Argonian, if you're any Argonian tank, this is a big fat no. You want to capitalize on your Argonian passive. You gain more resources by consuming potions than you would with the regen rate. So you want to reduce the timer. You're going to get more out of your alchemy reduction. So if you're an Argonian tank, doesn't matter if you're Nightblade, DK, whatever. If you're an Argonian tank, you want that reduction. It's just a big plus. And a lot of people are... Plus, keep in mind, Nightblade resource management with the leeching and the passive comes in so handy. What's a weak point of Nightblade tank? Pulls. That's the one bad thing about Nightblade tank. DK has chain, right? I mean, you can loss out, but Nightblade tank and Templar tank really have a problem with getting a lot of pull, where the Sorcerer tank doesn't even have that. You can Sorcerer tank, if you can get ahead of the crowd, you have that you have a large radius for your ability, whether you're using Hurricane or the Storm. You're going to pull the initial aggro, so then you can sweep it up. But Nightblades have a narrow path with refreshing, and Templars really struggle with mob management. That's the two bad things about those. But for a DK, it's just chain. If you get a ranged effect, you can chain it. You don't have to, keep pulling everything to the ranged target. Any easy way to farm leeching? Because I've tried in the past with my mag sword, but it couldn't solo it. Okay, the best way to get your leeching set is basically go down to the sewers. Yeah, thanks, X. I appreciate it. I love leeching, man, especially a Nightblade tank. It really works out so good. If you'll go down to the sewers or the districts and go for your key frags. If you farm up key frags, you'll get it. You have a higher chance to actually get your jewelry pieces. Now, some of your other pieces is kind of whatever. Now, I do want to point this out with the leeching on my feet. I do have the sturdy because I have enough max magic. I have enough resources at my disposal. So I wanted to reduce a little bit of block cost. You don't have to. You can go with divine, but I do recommend one sturdy piece on any tank build because that does come in handy. Reinforced needs work. I think they also need to take a look at fortified Nurncrux for potential builds, because every trait except fortified Nurncrux got a bump, and it's kind of sad because given the resistance caps and stuff, it really isn't beneficial to implement a fortified Nurncrux in the build. And I think they really need to take a look at that. That would be really awesome if Zos were to implement. I understand defense trait got nerf bat for the weapons, but I think fortified really needs a bump up. Now, as you guys can see, I did unlock this, so when I want to go ahead and I go into low slash, I want that heroic slash. I want the minor heroisms. Keep in mind, I get the minor with the heroic slash, and in the champion point passive or tree, as it were, I'm going to get that major when I drop below 20. So minor and major are covered. Right? So ultimate generation for the Nightblade tank is more dominant for Warhorn rotation, especially in vets and long durated fights. Now, like I said, this works out really great in vet content. Normal trials, it'll be good. Vet trials, mitigation is more important, and in boss fights you don't have a lot of adds, so leeching isn't going to be as beneficial. Leeching is more beneficial when there are more adds. The more adds it hits and the more it leeches under the adds, the stronger the leeching becomes for a tank. But in vet trials, you want to stray away from that. You want to mitigate more off of your health. So something like Plague Doctors or Eben become a lot more beneficial in vet trials with Nightblade tank. So if you're going to roll Nightblade tank in vet trials, you want to go ahead and either go with the Eben, depending on the encounter, because it's going to give 1,000, but it's not going to be as high health as Plague Doctors. Because remember, unlike the only tank that's not set with his shield, any shield, is a Sork tank. Sork tank is a little different. You can still use Bone Shield on Sork tank, but its Empowering Ward or Hardened Ward doesn't scale like every other tank's shield system, like the Templar or the DK or the Warden. So to use those sets the mitigation is going to be a lot more prominent for your high health set. But resource management, it's going to be depending on you whether or not you're going to be able to manage resources. And as a tank, the one thing that you want to try to get in the habit of is not being dependent on shards. You want to keep that for DPS, keep the DPS, and use every other ability. I can use almost majority of my tanks don't need shards majority of the time. I can manage my resources fine with a tank, but I gotta remember to weave heavy between my rotation. And knowing mechanics and when to do a heavy attack between your block is detrimental in tanking in this game. So I would just, encourage everybody, get your heavy attacks down between mechanics. Learn that. That's very important for tanking. But if anybody has any questions, comments, post below. I really enjoy this build. It's really fun. Like I said, this has kind of been done. The only thing is I twist it up a little bit. I'm going to go with the leeching, and instead of using regens on my rings, I want that reduction. Why? Because I'm Argonian. Simple. It's just that easy. And once again, if you want to go with the infused weapons, you can, but I prefer the decisive. All right. So if anybody has any, like I said, questions, post below. I want to thank everybody for watching. And once again, and always, have a nice day.